Welcome back to the Listen In with Lily Invest podcast, where we let you listen in to conversations about all things real estate and business. And today we have a special guest, the one and only Loida Velasquez. Loida is a total rock star in the real estate agent world with almost a decade's worth of experience under her belt. She also has a pretty large YouTube following with close to 90,000 subscribers and millions of views on her channel, which is where she shares her expertise on how to level up your sales, communications, and even video skills to land more deals as a real estate agent. So if you're an aspiring agent, or you have some experience as an agent, or you're an investor wanting to work better with agents, this is the episode for you. So sit back, relax, and join us as we chat with Loida about all things real estate, agents, sales, and the market. So please, you are a real estate agent. Can you just tell us, how did that start? Why did you decide to become an agent? What was that process like?
Yeah, so I got my real estate license back in 2015. Prior to that, I used to work in marketing and advertising for about 8-9 years. And even though I absolutely loved what I did, it just got to a point that I was feeling overworked and underpaid. I was working in these environments where people were negative, a lot of gossip, and I just didn't see myself being there long term. Real estate, it's funny, it was never a thought in my mind. I would hear real estate agents, you have to cold call, you have to door knock. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to do that. That is so embarrassing. So once I started to see that I didn't want to work in that corporate type of environment, I really started to look into real estate just because I knew that there was no really a limit for what you could achieve if you, set your mind to it and just kind of went hard. So that's kind of how I transitioned into real estate at the end of 2014, 2015. What's funny is that before I transitioned and I was still working in corporate, my mindset back then was, I should probably go to school and get a master's because that's the only way that I'm going to get this, 6-figure income. So I did go back to school. And I ended up dropping out of the MBA program once I really pursued real estate. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And when I did start into real estate, all I did was cold calling and door knocking. I wanted to go after listings. I knew that a lot of real estate agents were lazy and they hated to do that type of prospecting. So I'm like, I'm just going to be so good at this that people just can't say no to me. And if they're motivated or serious, I know I'm going to set an appointment. And that's just kind of how that got started. And I started to create content around the same time as well.
Yeah, very, very cool. So, and I've seen your YouTube videos where you are cold calling and where you are going out and doing that prospecting. Can you explain what's the difference between how a buyer's agent will find clients versus how a listing agent will find clients, and why you chose to go the path you did?
Yeah. So I think just in general, and from my experience, it's much easier to get buyer clients. Someone knows someone that's looking to purchase, whether it's a family member, word of mouth, and things like that. But when it comes to listings, it is definitely a little bit more difficult, not just to find them, but actually bring your value to the table when you're meeting with a seller, because in their eyes, now they have to pay a commission. And unless you really demonstrate what you bring to the table, they think that every single agent is the same. Now, the reason that I wanted to go after listings was because when you're working with buyers, you're pretty much on their schedule. If they can only see homes in the evenings, on the weekends, I have to change my schedule to whenever it is that they're available. Versus if you have a listing, I meet with the sellers, we agree on everything, I put a lockbox, and I can move on to my next client. That's pretty much the only thing. So I really wanted to be able to be in control of my time. And also, we negotiate the commissions that we get paid and pay out as a listing agent. So that's really why I decided to focus on that. It's easy to get buyers, and also having a listing, I would attract buyers as well, whether they see my, sign on the yard or call online. You're potentially going to get more business being a listing agent.
Right. No, that makes total sense. So maybe this is kind of controversial. So I made a TikTok recently where, because a lot of people ask me the question of, should they go the path of being a real estate agent or go the path of being a real estate investor? And I want to get your perspective on this as well. But something I said was you have to make sure that the activities that you're doing in either of those jobs are the ones that you want to be doing. And so, like you said, cold calling, you can do that as a real estate investor or as an agent.
Yeah.
And, you're attacking it in different ways. But I said, like, be careful if you're choosing to be a buyer's agent, if those activities are not what you actually want to be doing, because like you said, you have to work your schedule around the clients. And also what I found is that, like, clients aren't always ready to buy. Sometimes they're just kind of tire kicking, and then you end up going around to see a ton of different properties, and then they never buy, and you kind of wasted your time. And some people thought I was like putting down real estate agents, but I'm really just saying, like, be careful, because sometimes clients will string you along.
Yeah. And I think the problem is that a lot of agents or people that want to get into real estate, they see these shows, they see these successful real estate agents, and they think, oh, I'm going to get my license tomorrow and I'm going to start getting deals. And then the reality hits them where it's like, you actually have to put in work. And if you don't, you're going to leave the business. Right. And the thing with being a buyer's agent as well is that, for example, I have worked with buyers. They were ready, willing, and able, but there were multiple offers every single time that we kept getting outbid. And it gets to a point that, I can't offer 50,000 more because my client doesn't have that. So now it becomes this thing where you're working with some buyers. They can't get into a property. So, you can only do so much with them. That's the difference between buyers and listing agents. But going back to what you said, whether you decide to be a real estate investor, a real estate agent, listing agent, buyer's agent, just know that you're actually going to have to put in work. And, I say that because I see this all the time. Agents say, I want to get 100 deals my first year. And I'm like, that's really ambitious, but you're really going to have to work and put in the work and work on your skills, because if not, there's going to be another shark out there that's going to outwork you if you don't really put in the work that you're supposed to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What was that like for you in terms of getting your first deal? Did you stick with your previous job that you kind of weren't enjoying until you got your first deal? Did you just dive right in? How did that work?
Yeah, I just dove right in. I made the decision. I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it full time. And I just started making calls, expires, and for sale by owners. That's really who I focused on. At the same time, my very first year, I did a lot of door knocking. What door knocking helped me with is that, I got to meet so many people, different personalities, everyone speaks differently. So it really helped me with my communication. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the doors. What's the worst thing that people can do? Like slam the door and close it? Okay, whatever. But there's someone that needs my help. And that's my mentality. Like, I need to get to that person that needs my help, because if not, there might be another shady agent that's going to get to them and screw them over. Yeah. And I think just in general, a lot of people think that real estate agents, we're just like money hungry. And even on my YouTube channel, the content that I put out, I even say, I'm okay with turning away business if I can help someone, because my reputation is on the line. And I want to make sure that people know that if you work with Loida, she's going to do a great job. So It was really like that mentality. So going after the for sale by owners and the expireds, I was reading and I was watching some YouTube videos. Mike Ferry was really one that I was watching. He's a real estate coach. He's big on the prospecting. So I'm like, okay, I don't need to recreate everything and reinvent the wheel. Let me just do what these top producing agents have done in the past. And if they have been successful, I just got to do the same thing. Right. So my schedule was very military. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people make. It's like, oh, I work for myself. Like, I can wake up whenever and I'll make calls. No, you got to treat it like it's more. Exactly. So I was waking up early around 5:36, going to the gym. Around 7:00, I would start role playing. So from like 7 to 8, I was role playing every single day with different agents. Starting 8:00, I was hitting the phones. I was hitting the new expireds, then new for sale by owners. And I sucked. I mean, I have recorded some of my calls. You can watch them on my YouTube channel. Yeah. And looking back, I'm like, man, I've come a long way. But I knew that I had to put in that work, and that's how I got better. So yeah, it was prospecting in the mornings, and then the afternoons, I was following up, doing admin work. And then in the evenings, I would get back on the phones. And that's literally how my schedule was. Because I knew that if I don't have any deals, I better be prospecting, because no one else is going to be prospecting for me. And I don't have money to go and pay for these lead sources, because I don't even know if the leads are going to be legit anyway. So that's kind of how that started. And my first deal came from an expired. It was actually a gentleman. He was like yelling at me over the phone, but everything he was telling me, I'm like, man, this man sounds motivated. He lives in a big house and he's like 70 years old. He's like, yeah, I struggle going up and down the stairs. So I'm like, okay, this guy needs to sell. Otherwise he's going to fall and get hurt.
Yeah.
Ended up getting a listing appointment. That was for a $1 million property out in Orange County, California. He wasn't interviewing any other agents, and he had been on the market previously for almost 2 years with agents that overpriced the property.
Okay.
So when I got that, I'm like, I need to keep going.
Yeah. So let's dive into that. Like, so you're looking at expired. So for people that don't know, and like my understanding, I go after expired as well as like an investor, but I'm oftentimes going after like distressed properties that have expired. So you're looking at expireds for $1 million property, and it failed off the MLS. So you call them up. And how did you determine that the other agents had overpriced him? And did you have to like convince him to price it lower?
Yeah. So just in general, when we go after, traditional real estate sales, anything that has come off the market, and through my experience making all these calls, there's only a few reasons why a property won't sell. First, it's probably overpriced. The second, if there's tenants in the property, maybe it wasn't easy to show. Another one, maybe it didn't show well. Many times also the agent just didn't pick up the phone or do their fiduciary duty to their seller. So there's all these different things, but at the end of the day, there's still a lot of homeowners that absolutely need to sell, and they had a bad experience with the last agent. And that's when I come in and I try to figure out exactly what happened. And in this case, with this gentleman that was way overpriced, when I know that someone is very motivated to sell and they need to make a move, I try to get to like the bottom of it. Like, what's important to you? The price that you're going to list it for, or your bottom line once you get that paycheck at the end? So
Right.
For him, he had said, yeah, I need to walk away with X amount, but I want to sell it for 2 million. So when we figure out the numbers, it's like, well, James, did you know that actually if we price it correctly, you're still going to walk away with what you want in your pocket? And no one had explained that to him. So he was like, oh, well, then yeah, that makes sense. Like, let's get this going. So that's, you need to be able to understand how to talk to people and what's important to them so that you can position yourself so that they can see that you're a valuable agent.
Right. What was your commission on that first deal?
6%.
Oh, so you got buyer side and seller side on that? Or did you
That went to both.
Just the seller side?
No. So usually when we negotiate the commission, we as a listing agent then decide how much we're going to pay out to the buyer's agent. And in this case, I also ended up representing the buyer as well. They reached out. We had multiple offers, but the buyer that had reached out, I was like, whether I represent you or not, it's going to be the best price in terms for whoever. And they were like, yeah, we really want this house. And yeah, it ended up being 6% for that first one.
That's awesome. Do you mind telling us what market you're licensed to be an agent in?
Yes. So I'm licensed in California and in Florida.
Gotcha. And why did you choose those two states?
So I'm originally from California, born and raised in Los Angeles. So that's where I started my career. And last year in January is when I moved out here to South Florida. And that's why I got my license out here.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, this world is very interesting to me because, like I said, I'm only on the investor side. I'm not on the agent side. Did you consider, or have you considered, or have you done any investing yourself, or are you more sticking to the agent side?
Right now, because I have mostly had my experience in the traditional real estate side, that's what I've been focusing on. But investing is definitely something that I want to get into. And I do also work with a lot of investors that are looking for multi-units and properties just like yourself.
Yeah. So for those listening that maybe are investors who want to find like that investor friendly agent, how do you recommend that they go about contacting somebody like yourself?
I would say do your research and do your homework when it comes to interviewing agents, depending on what it is that you want. So for example, when an investor comes to me, there's a lot of questions that I like to ask just to make sure that I'm not wasting my time, or let's say yours, sending you properties that I know you're not even going to be interested in. So kind of interviewing agents and seeing if they have had experience working with investors. What is their approach to finding maybe off-market properties or distressed sellers or properties that they could get a deal? And once you connect with someone that you feel that you're comfortable and confident that they can help you, then probably go that route.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's really good advice. How much did it cost to get your real estate license? I know it was you said 2014, 2015, but how did you approach, like, should you make that investment? Some people are just like scared to spend the money up front. How did you think about that?
For me, it wasn't even a question. I was like, I'm going to do this. How much is it going to take? I had some savings and I just made it happen. But I know for California, I think the application, it could be like $200 to $400, but then you also have to take the courses. The courses, when I took them back then, I don't know why, but in California, it seems like everything's always backed up. So it took me like 6 months to get my license. So you can expect kind of like that time frame out there. When I came to Florida, I could have easily gotten it in like a month or two. So every state is different in how quickly you can get your license. But I would say all in maybe like $500-$600, maybe less than $1,000. And that's just to get your license. There's still like MLS fees and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. How do you run your business now since you started, 2014, 2015? Like, what's changed and what does a day-to-day look like for you now? Or are you still doing kind of that same military schedule?
That military schedule changed maybe like 2-3 years ago, just because I had already built enough momentum. So even when I first started, I knew that I wasn't going to be making calls and knocking like every single day. The whole goal was to start building a database and a pipeline and putting my name out there. So it would get to the point that now I would get referral business, whether it was from agents or clients. So that's where most of my business now comes from. Also social media. Once I started to put out videos on YouTube, a question that I get from even other agents is, how do you get customers or consumers to reach out to you? And I say here and there, it does happen. But thankfully, a lot of agents that follow me now end up sending me referrals and I work that. So back in 2 years ago, we started a nationwide team. So I'm a part of a nationwide team. Initially, it was just 2 of us. Now we have about 15 agents across the US. And now my role is more in charge of teaching and training the agents so that they can be like an extension of me and the markets that they're in.
That's super, super cool. Do most of your agents focus on residential, or are you looking at like bigger properties or commercial properties as well?
Mostly residential. Here and there, we do have a few that focus a lot with investors and commercial properties.
Very cool. Can you explain a little bit of the difference to us between a agent and a broker and like how that relationship works?
To make it super simple, the broker has all of the responsibility and liability. So if something goes wrong, if the agent does something wrong, the broker is responsible. Versus the agent, they are under, like the broker would be considered the employer, even though the agent is still like an independent contractor. But that's just kind of like the easiest way to explain it for someone to understand the different things.
Yeah. Do you work under a broker, or are you a broker for the agents on your team? Like, how does that setup work?
So the brokerage company that I'm a part of is called Real Broker. So they are my broker. I'm just a licensed agent. And within our company, we can have teams. So we have everything structured so that we run our team that way.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Those are most of my questions. I really appreciate kind of the look into the world of a real estate agent. What else do you think is important for people who maybe are considering going that route or really want to work with a really good agent?
I would say that if you are considering first getting into the real estate business, know that it's going to take a lot of work. And something that I see a lot of times is that everyone wants everything for free. And there's only so much that you can find on YouTube that's free. So one thing I recommend, whether you're a new agent or maybe you're like kind of struggling, if you can, get a coach, because that's what's going to take you to the next level. The next thing, you really have to be dedicated and committed, because you're going to there's going to be times that you're going to want to cry and give up. And you're going to see a lot of people that start at the same time that you start, and then they're going to leave the business. But again, like I keep saying, the skills, you have to work on your skills, on your communication, and know that, if you're working with buyers or sellers, a lot of them do have a need. They want to buy or they want to sell for a specific purpose. So you also have to think of yourself kind of like a problem solver. If you're working with the seller, what is the issue? Why do they want to move? What's important to them? What happens if they don't move? So like pre-qualifying and making sure that you are actually working with people that you can help, not just getting any client just because you want a fast paycheck, and also have standards. A lot of agents just don't have standards. They're willing to be like swept under the rug and thrown and yelled at, and you have to have respect for yourself.
Yeah, no, that's really, really good advice. I say investors, agents, just anybody should take that advice. But no, that's really good. I appreciate it. Yeah, of course. Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for joining us. And where can people find more about you? Tell them about your YouTube channel. Just anybody who wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do so? Yeah, so in my YouTube channel, I give a lot of videos, content revolving becoming a real estate agent and what it takes to succeed. So you can just find me on there, my name, Loida Velasquez, or on my website, loidavelasquez.com. Awesome. Thanks so much, Loida. I appreciate it. Thanks, Lily. I hope you guys had a great time listening in to the amazing Loida Velasquez and learned some valuable tips to level up your game as a real estate agent. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to hit the like button and be sure to go check out Loida's YouTube channel, which will be linked in the description below. Until next time, thanks for watching.